Okay guys, today we're going to talk about a long story, which is my favorite story, Walt Disney. As you guys didn't know Walt Disney, he is actually one of the characters who actually made Disney. So it all began a long time ago. Walt Life Disney was born on December 5, 1901 in Chicago City. As he was 4, the Disney family actually then moved into a farm and worked there, while his 3 brothers actually worked on with his uncle. And usually there's actually a tree, and Walt Disney actually always sits under the tree, which he called his dreaming tree. He always takes care of his daughter, but he always spends all the time under the tree, having them, for example, different types of animals that come there. For example, ants, rabbits, and birds. This wasn't, and also hearing the wind. He also actually supposed to be also drawing under the tree. For example, sketching rabbits, squirrels, and deers. This wasn't long until after 5 years.
I like squirrels.
This wasn't long after 5 years. The Disney family gave up the farm work, and then they actually moved back to Chicago, I think. And then later, Walt Disney actually gets to learn to be an artist. So this is why he actually got a lot of animal books to art. And this wasn't long until then. This was then at the time in 1918 in World War I. Walt Disney actually wants to help fight in World War I. So he was actually went to Paris and then actually drove with an ambulance car. And after the war, this wasn't long until he actually found some friends and then made the company. The company was, I think, the Walt Disney Studios. Let's go with that. But for about 1 month being in business, the company unfortunately failed. But they did not give up, because then they
always keep going on.
Because then they moved into Hollywood, and then also this was actually then until they went to another building, which is called Laugh-O-Grandma movie. And then this was actually then at the time where then becomes famous movie, which is of course Mickey Mouse. This all began right when, as Walt Disney is drawing on his desk, he heard mice and mouse coming onto his desk. He actually dropped some cheese. He actually put some cheese on the desk to let the mouse come in closer and closer. One mouse was actually braver than the others, managed to get close enough and then to eat the cheese. And he also played on Walt's drawing board, and it became.
Fantastic.
And so it wasn't long until it was then being in a cage as a pet. And then he actually then started making more movies. Actually, early at the time, Mickey Mouse was always called that name. Earlier it was called Mortimer Mouse. But then later it was then changed to Mickey after the girl sparrow's wife. And then it wasn't long until most cartoons that Walt Disney made is short. So everybody thought that Walt Disney was crazy. So then this is why until then, this was then as a success by one movie. It was called The Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. And it took 5 years to complete it. The movie.
It's long, yeah.
Yeah. The movie finally came out release in 1937, and it was a huge box office hit. He even also won an Oscar during the film. He actually got 1 big Oscar and 7 smaller ones during the film. And then he actually created with more animated movies like Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, Bambi, Alice in Wonderland, and Peter Pan.
Nice.
And then it all went good until it wasn't long until World War II.
You're really a fucking lexicon.
Thanks. And this wasn't long until World War II came along, and Walt Disney actually slowed down on making movies. He decided to make movies for the U.S. government. And after the war, he actually makes live-action and animated movies. His first live-action movie was called Treasure Island. And in the 1950s, televisions got actually really popular. So he decided to make his own TV shows. He made the Davy Crockett series, the Mickey Mouse Club, and the Mickey Mouse whatever. There are different types of...
Or is Wonder House is newer?
Well, yeah, Wonder House, I think. Wonder House, it could be. And then this wasn't long until...
That's what I know.
And this wasn't long until it was actually his dream to open his new theme park. This actually was since back in the one part.
That's your dream too.
Yeah. And while taking on his daughter in a carousel, Walt Disney was actually dreaming of Disneyland, where families could actually enjoy. So then they decided to make his own Disneyland. But this is gonna be a small park. Because it's built on acres of land, this was only one building where they make movies. And it was clear that they needed much bigger space to hold the park they envisioned. So they found a space at a cost they could afford. 27 miles southeast South Dakota in Los Angeles. And purchasing 110 acres, this wasn't long until in 1953, construction began on the site. They actually finally released it was finally opened in 1955. And at the first day, it was actually not the best park they envisioned because they only got 15 million people there to attend. And nearly 30,000 showed up.
But 50 million people, that's a lot.
And yeah, I think about 15 people. I think it was
50. Okay.
Yeah, and nearly about 300 people actually showed up. And they entered the park with fake tickets. Rides were closed.
Genius idea.
Women's shoes are sinking into the melting asphalt. This was all a disaster. But again, Walt didn't quit. He fixed what was wrong and made it better. And this park was still open today. Nearly about 18 million people a year.
Well, that's a lot.
And this wasn't long until people loved Disneyland, and Walt Disney actually began to expand. But there was one problem. Walt Disney didn't like all the random businesses began popping out from around Disneyland. So he wanted to create something bigger, where people could actually go and have fun, or whatever. And so he set his sights on Florida. So he took a flight on Orlando, Florida, and found a perfect spot where to build it in Bay Lake. He called this plan the Florida Project, and it was top secret. If word would have spread that he would buy another one such in Florida, it causes his price to be huge, and people would have bought the land around the area, which is something Walt didn't like. To make sure this didn't happen, Walt used fake companies to buy the land. And so...
It really was genius, huh?
Yeah. And so then, he actually amassed about 8 acres of land and more than $5 million. Walt's dream was finally coming to reality. But unfortunately, on December 15, 1996, Walt Disney passed away about 5 years before the park opened. And his vision and his life still going true. But we're not still quite end here, because there's still some steps that I want to tell you. So first off, number 1, everybody thinks that the truth is that Walt's body was frozen, but hopes of bringing him back one day. These rumors were not true.
Really? The whole body frozen?
No, these rumors were not true. Instead, this was actually cremated and hanged on the wall and whatever is on his writing, for example. Number 2, didn't you know that Walt Disney had a secret apartment in Disneyland? Right above Park's fire station, it actually has a secret room in there. And there's actually a light in the windows that Walt Disney would often light to show to know employees that he's in the park. The light still shines today, which would show him that Walt Disney is always in the park. Number 3, every year for Christmas, his year housekeeper, Frank Rammer, actually then took care of it. But the time she died, her shares were about exactly $95 million. Number 4, and the Walt Disney Company is worth about $93 billion.
Really?
Yeah. And number 5, and
I can imagine.
Yeah. And as I said earlier, Walt loved trains. His fascination began as a child. When every time she actually sees his train pass by in his house, his uncle, as a train conductor, would always whistle as a greeting. Later, as an adult, and Disney actually built a miniature steam railroad, a backyard of his LA home, number 6. And now Disney's final words remain a mystery. On his deathbed, he wrote the name of now famous actor Kurt Russell on a piece of paper. Even Kurt Russell was confused as to why. And so, guys...
It's my turn, no?
Yeah, and so guys, this was the end of Walt Disney's story. I hope you enjoyed it.
Of course, everybody enjoys seeing this video.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if Walt Disney looks from above
Yeah.
on us, he is really, really proud of you.
Yeah.
And has, just like me now, actually one question.
Yeah.
What the hell is wrong with you, boy? You're a lexicon. How's that possible? You're so smart, boy.
Yeah, it's just because I'm smart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. So, goodbye.
This is for YouTube.
Yeah, this is for YouTube.
Fuck. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Alright. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe button. And never forget to hit the bell button because nobody has ever subscribed or hit the like button or the bell button on our YouTube channel. So,
Love
see
you
you
so much,
in
Beauty.
peace.